How do you handle it when your boss is the person who scammed your parents years ago? Back in 2007, my parents decided to spend part of their retirement savings fixing up their house. Dad was ex-army and worked as an engineer after leaving service. Mom was a teacher. They'd saved carefully, so they had enough for a new kitchen, windows, and a paved driveway. After comparing quotes, they chose a local business. I'll call it Brightbuild. It looked reputable. Professional website, membership logos, and a smooth-talking salesman who convinced them that quality work was worth paying extra for. The total came to £35,000. Everything started well, and for a few weeks, they thought they'd made the right choice. Then, the problems appeared. The windows whistled when it rained. The heating bills jumped, and weeds poked through the new driveway within a month. The kitchen's electrics blew fuses whenever both ovens were on, and the metal plate around the switch gave mild shocks. Even worse, the so-called secure doors could be lifted straight out of their frames. Dad called a friend, Alan, who was in construction. Alan inspected the house and said nearly everything had to be redone, about £20,000 worth of repairs. Dad contacted Brightbuild, but the rep who came blamed the original builders, said everything was to standard, and left. A month later, Brightbuild disappeared. Phones disconnected, office gone, emails bouncing back. The trade memberships they displayed were fake. My parents had to spend another £25,000 fixing the mess. It was an expensive, painful lesson. Fast forward to 2018. Dad had passed away a few years earlier, and Mom wasn't doing great, so I looked for work closer to her home. I found an opening for an IT technician at a local kitchen manufacturer called Local Kitchens. The pay was slightly better, and I'd save hundreds on commuting costs. I applied, got the job, and started right away. The company's owner, John, seemed familiar, but I couldn't figure out why. From day one, it was chaos. The factory was dangerously loud, and no one wore safety gear. My role as IT technician somehow included fixing machines, wiring networks, driving forklifts without a license, and managing John's personal tech problems. He constantly cut corners, payroll delays, cheap parts, and pirated software used across multiple computers. I discovered that one of my coworkers was Alan, the same man who had helped my dad inspect the house years ago. He joined Local Kitchens long before me and knew the place inside out. He told me that John was refusing to pay fair wages, even though the company was barely staying afloat. Right before Christmas, John announced he was giving us bonuses. They turned out to be 5-pound tubs of sweets. Not great, especially since Alan was diabetic and I had a sugar allergy. John claimed the business was tight, but promised to catch up next year. 2 days later, he called me into his office and told me the company couldn't afford to keep me beyond a couple of months. He said it kindly, but it was obvious he was cutting costs again. As I was leaving that day, I overheard him on the phone saying, "Yes, it's John from Local Kitchens. You might have us down as Brightbuild." That name hit me like a punch. I finally realized where I'd seen his face before. He was the same man who had scammed my parents out of their savings. During the holiday break, Alan and I found old customer files from 2005 to 2008 under the name Brightbuild, full of complaints about bad work. It was too late for legal action, but we both agreed it was time for John to face consequences. In January, I quietly started documenting everything: the missing safety gear, exposed wiring, chemical leaks, and pirated software. I saved emails where John refused to fix problems and prioritized hotel stays over legal expenses. By February, I had a thick folder of proof. When I resigned, John barely spoke to me. My final paycheck came late as usual. I told my mom everything that night, and she gave me a look I'll never forget. "Do what needs to be done," she said simply. I reported Local Kitchens to the Federation Against Software Theft, sending them proof of illegal software use. I also contacted the local health and safety office with photos and videos of dozens of violations. Finally, I reported his use of expired trade association logos. 3 weeks later, one of the sales staff, Jane, called me. Health and safety had shut down the factory, and John had declared bankruptcy. He owed nearly £1 million and faced hundreds of thousands in fines. A few months later, I ran into him by pure chance. I was helping a friend deliver pizzas, and John answered the door. He looked tired and defeated. He told me his wife had left with the kids and tried to mock me for delivering food now. I smiled and said, "You built my parents' kitchen in 2007?" The color drained from his face. His past had finally caught up to him.